All right, welcome back to Kicking Ass with Tanner Stone. Today we have a very special episode. We finally had BenChaseMotivation back when Motivational Mike is going to co-host. So, of course, happy to be here. I'm really excited for that. And before we get started, I just want to say this episode has been on hold for a long time because Ben has just taken his time and sit in his thoughts. He went on another podcast and talked about this whole situation. And I just admire him because he didn't shy away from this incident that happened to him, but he kind of embraced it and made him who he is right now. If you never went through this situation, you wouldn't be dressed how you are right now. You wouldn't carry yourself how you are right now. And I think all these things in our lives kind of make us who we are. And I want people to take away from this episode, not to shy away from the things that they did, but kind of embrace it. So just tell them a little more about yourself, and I'm excited to hear your story, man.
So I love what Tanner said. And on the topic of adversity, and I think we're kind of getting right into it. And this is like the dilemma that I'm currently faced with in life. I have so many outstanding friends, not actually so many, a couple, which is all you really need. But that's a whole different story. I'd say about like outstanding friends, but I meant to say I have such a strong family support unit, which I'm sure we all know the value of family. It's number one. So like when adversity hits in life, if you're fortunate enough to have incredible family members, it's invaluable. It's so valuable. And it was so huge for me. And when you bring up like these family members in my life who mean so much to me, and yes, like let's be frank, I had not my entire story, a part of my life story. It was a moment in time that altered the trajectory of my life. And as you said, into a positive thing. And I want to really get deep. I want to explain it on this level. I went on another podcast with two outstanding, highly acclaimed attorneys who were supportive of me and helped me through a difficult time. But now I want to talk about it on the more Gen Z practical approach and kind of finding the balance between the professionalism, or not even professionalism, like an expertise level, and then the Gen Z level where everyone goes through shit, everyone. And my story of adversity, I'm not here to make you feel bad for me. I'm not here to be like, boo hoo, I went through such a tough thing. Everyone should feel so bad for me. Like that's not, if that was my true intention, I would not be here right now. I would be complaining and I would be a miserable person. And that's really with anywhere in life. When you go through shit, if you choose the route of contamination, that the adversity that you go through, whether it's failing a test, whether it's losing a friend, or maybe you made a really bad mistake and you're actually in a really tough situation, we have the choice as human beings between contamination and redemption. And I learned that through life coaching, which I'm going to have. That's the big positive news when I talk about the business that I'm starting. And actually, I'm probably going to be launching next, well, I don't know when this is going to be released, but most likely on January 12th, which happens to be the day after my 20th birthday. I'm planning on launching my life coaching program.
Released close right after that, yeah.
So the release will be around then, which is good timing. And I'm excited for that new chapter. So now I want to take a deep dive and really talk about I don't like to say my whole story because it's my story even. It's not my entire story. It was actually a small moment in time, which had a big impact on my life. And it's a part of who I am today. And I want to be frank and to the point. And we can keep it somewhat short and sweet, but we will get into the details. And I want to answer your guys' questions that other people might have. September 11th, 2024. It happened to be on the anniversary of 9/11, which obviously is one of the most tragic incidences in the history of the world, and an emotional day for many people as well. It was around 11 p.m. I was walking back to my dorm room, and a small little ball was rolled out to me. I was kind of playing around with it. People were laughing. And then I decided to step on this small ball. What I did not realize at the time was that inside of that ball was a dwarf hamster named Timmy. And I accidentally and unintentionally stepped on and tragically killed Timmy the dwarf hamster. It was a terrible tragedy. It was a shock for sure. I love animals. I've always loved animals. I'm an owner of dogs. And I've obviously explained myself to everyone who knew me and loved me. And everyone supported me. They've known me for years. And I would never do something intentionally like that ever. That's never been who I am. I've always loved animals. I've been a babysitter. I've never been that type of person. And I know you guys know that. Tanners know me for a long time. This was a crazy, crazy mistake. It was, or I guess you could call it the act was an accident, of course. I would never intentionally harm an animal ever. But the mistake portion is something we can really take a deep dive into. And who was I as a person? And why would I even step on someone's ball? It's not a nice thing to do. And I want to be open and honest about that. Stepping on someone else's property is not a nice thing to do. It's a mischievous thing to do. But of course, and I'll say it for the last time, I did not intentionally step on a hamster. I did not know of the existence of the dwarf hamster. So that's the quote unquote 8-second moment. And the aftermath is a whole slew of details as well. But I want to just start and kind of turn it back over to you guys. I know we're kind of doing this collectively. Is there anything you want to chime in at this point?
I always go back to this in life, and one little thing you do, like let's say you're heading this direction, if you say a certain word, do a certain action, make it change the whole trajectory. How do you say it? Trajectory of your whole life. And I feel like this little moment, you did one little thing, like you said, 8 seconds, and it just changed the whole direction of where you were going. But at that moment in time, you're like, oh my God, this is so bad. This is so bad. And I want to ask you, how long did it take from in your mindset? Did it take to change that negative mindset where you fall into a depression, you feel lonely because you made a mistake, to change it to a positive that you took from that situation?
And, you know, the word depression, I want to address that first because that's not a word that any of us use lightly. It's a real thing. However, I was clinically diagnosed with depression and anxiety as a result of the aftermath of a lot of the different components. However, now, of course, there's a lot of positive that has come out of this story. My life has drastically improved. And again, that's why I'm here. That's why I want to talk and inspire other people out there who are going through a tough time, that no matter what adversity you face, you can overcome it. And it's exciting that I get to be on a platform like this with two young, inspirational, motivational, outstanding young people who want better for themselves.
Yeah.
Because I know there's people out there who also do. So to get back to the point of your question, that positive shift of a mindset, outstanding question. It's been a 15-month ongoing journey. And it's also, I think that the answer to your question, it's a bit out of the box. It's something that I learned in life coaching. It's called an infinite playing field. And when something is an infinite playing field, it means it's always evolving. I'm never going to wake up one day and say, my mindset is perfect. I am the most positive person. We have to work on it day in and day out. So yes, you can strengthen yourself as a human being, and you could be consistent. So the answer to your question of when did I adopt this positive mentality, I'm still adopting it every single day and improving it, because ups and downs are natural in life. And of course, this was a rock bottom, but emotionally and mentally and everything, because there's just a couple more details for the viewers. I was a student at the University of Florida. I did not get expelled from the University of Florida. And there's a whole other topic with, I went through a school hearing. I was criminally charged for this. It blew up into a very, very serious situation. The good news is I made it out.
I have another question for you. Did you realize in that situation, you're like, this can't be real? Like, are you serious? Like, a hamster named Timmy, I heard they made shirts for Timmy. And I feel like to a point, the girls or the women, they were kind of trolling you, I would say. They were kind of cyberbullying or maybe taking it too far. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know how you could care for little Timmy that much. But if it was that big of a deal, when do you realize you're like, oh shit, like this is actually a serious matter?
So first off, I respect that is your opinion. I respect your opinion. I personally have no comment or opinion whatsoever on the actions of the owners of the dwarf hamster. My stance is I'm extremely sorry. I'm extremely apologetic. And this was a terrible tragedy, and I wish it could have been prevented. I wish that I did realize and this would have happened. So I have no comments in that respect in terms of the trolling. However, yes, the t-shirt was made, and I believe there was a funeral that occurred. So how much was the hamster cared for? I have no real comments on that. Maybe probably a lot, I'll say. So, which just adds to my apologies. But when did I realize that the situation was serious is a great question, because at first I was extremely apologetic. I was texting them. I was trying to apologize and explain how this was an accident. And it just that never turned into anything, clearly, because it went to a different sort of level. I realized there were two different components. There was the cyberbullying. The story went viral online, and it was posted on the UF Yik Yak, which is no surprise. Everything is posted on the Yik Yak. People tell their stories and whatever that might be. So my name was immediately put out there, and I was vilified and turned into someone that I'm not. And everyone who knew me, and of course, people were believing me and trusting me because I had relationships, and they were messaging me saying, "This is terrible, so sorry," whatever that was. So you had the Yik Yak, and the story also was on Reddit. I realized it was, I guess, serious in a social standpoint then, but it turned serious in the criminal standpoint. That was when I came home unrelated to that. I left the University of Florida because I no longer felt safe on campus. That night, there were people knocking on my door in my dorm room, yelling through the door, calling me Jeffrey Dahmer and saying just terrible, terrible things. And there were people in class who were saying things to me. Everyone who knew me heard about this. And people were, they were worried about my safety. My parents, I personally, and I was in no mental health position to be on my own. So I moved back home.
And then you wanted to ask something? Yeah.
I like you said earlier how this isn't like your whole story. It's just a chapter part of it, of like this ever-changing story that's going on. And I give you a ton of credit for first going on the You're Free to Go podcast and sharing this very deeply personal, challenging story, and then coming back on to share this story again. I know it's not easy to speak on it, and you're one of the strongest guys that I've come to know. You've been subject to very extensive bullying and just online harassment, and you're a lot stronger, and you never gave up, and you just kept on going. And I just give you a ton of credit for doing that.
That's a very, very kind thing to say, and I appreciate that. So I guess, should we segue into a different area, or do you think there's some more questions we should answer about the incident? Because, what I'm really excited about, and the entire vibe will turn from serious and what we're talking about now and this moment in time into something really positive that I think people are going to be excited to hear.
I kind of want to take it from this and go to the importance of having people surrounding you who care about you. Because you told me on the last podcast we did, you said you lost friends through this, and you kind of realized who was really there for you, realized your family was there for you. You probably had some other close friends who were there for you. So what was that like, realizing you have people leaving your life and you also have people in the spotlight who actually care about you?
That's an amazing point. And something that I guess I could say I'm proud of is that my story is 1 in 8 billion. No, and that's for all of us. But when we talk about my specific story, or the way that I find strength and applaud myself and I'm able to continue to push forward and forward, no one else in the world has gone through exactly what I went through. There are people out there who have been cyberbullied. There are people out there who have been falsely accused of crimes.
Yeah.
There are people out there who have made mistakes. 8 billion people make mistakes. But when you combine everything together, what makes my story, I found beauty in the fact that I am one of one. And I think actually everyone out there can find beauty in their story, because no one's been through what you went through. And if someone like me who has went through this unique kind of extreme situation can sit here and say, your adversity is no different than mine, I hope there's someone out there who could find some inspiration to that. And maybe they'll say it from the perspective that this kid who went through this horrible, horrible thing is still strong and holding strong. So that'll help them get through their adversity. But some form of perspective that I've learned that I also want to share, and then I'll address your point. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of in a flow state right now. To me, at the moment, this was rock bottom. But something that my late grandfather Howard, rest in peace, he was an unbelievable man. He had a line when he was dying in the hospital that he would always say, God rest his soul. One of the best, probably the best man I've ever known. He said it could always be worse. And when I was going through my situation, that line got me through it. It could be worse. I could have been in jail for this, but I wasn't. I could have been dead, but I wasn't. I could have committed suicide, but I didn't. And I know that's another strong term, but there was a point in time when suicide contemplation was a real thing. It didn't get to an extreme point where I was doing any self-harm. I don't want to, be dramatic at all. That's not what I'm here to do. But those thoughts didn't cross my mind. And just the contemplation of what that option would look like when the entire world, presumably do you think these cyberbullying people out there, what was their goal? It was for me to hate myself. It was for me to dig myself in a hole and never come out. The people who said this kid should be expelled from UF, the people who said to my face, your life is ruined. I was at a gas station a couple times, and people would come up to me and laugh at me and say, you're the hamster killer. What did those people want? Again, we shouldn't care too much. But for me, it's motivation, because now I get to go prove them wrong. And I get to go become the best version of myself and keep doing what I'm doing and dress professionally and make friends and make these connections, even though I went through adversity.
So now about my question.
So your question,
That was a great response, by the way. I'm definitely making a reel out of that. So my question was, through this tough time, you definitely lost people in your life. You definitely realized who the real ones were around you. And how did that feel about losing, let's say, a lot of your close friends at UF who kind of turned to maybe make fun of you or distance from you because of what you were going through? And then how was it realizing that your family was really there for you, and just who was around you and who wasn't around you, and how did that affect you?
absolutely. I want to start with a positive on the people who were there for me.
Yeah.
There were friends who answered my phone calls. There were friends, a couple who reached out to me to make sure that I was okay. Because everyone, when it first went viral, people reached out to me. And for the most part, pretty much everyone who was my actual friend did support me. People started making fun of me and that was a little bit later on when I started posting social media content. That's when I lost some of those friends. And it was still in the same time period. So what they kind of did for me go hand in hand in that sense, because I started posting social media content in March of 2025, and this entire situation was not officially resolved until I think it was September. So I had that whole year I was now BenChaseMotivation as a part of my thing, and also everyone still was talking and knew what I was going through. But my family was so amazing. I had an outstanding step aunt and step uncle who took me under their wing, and I worked for them for 15 months right after this incident occurred. And it was probably the greatest experience of my life so far, working at a law firm. And their demonstration of love, of course, my aunt and uncle and my parents and and my grandmother and my grandmother and my grandparents, their demonstration of unconditional love, even through this difficult time, conveyed the importance of family. Because when my back was up against the wall, I wrote a song, Back Up Against the Wall. When my back was up against the wall, there were friends who weren't there for me, but you expect that because everyone's going through their own shit in life. But then it's your family who drop everything and they would do anything for you. And that's so powerful. So when we look at the actual incident, family was there for you every step of the way. And friends, it's just not possible. Like, for example, one of my close friends who was supporting me on the phone, he was at college, but my mom was touching me and by my side in Gainesville, Fort Lauderdale, every step of the way. So that's just my opinion, the objective difference between family and friends.
Yes. And I want to kind of go off that, and everybody knows your story. Like, seriously, like, if you want to look at your story, go on someone else's podcast. But what makes this podcast different is kind of touching a key moments on your mindset and how you felt during that time. And I feel like it's so important that we touch on that, because this is who you are right now. Like, I remember when you called me, I was at University of Tampa. You called it like, Ben's calling me, what the heck? And you just kind of just told me you appreciated my content. You wanted to hear more about what I do because you told me your story. You wanted to kind of inspire people. And then you became a life coach, and you wouldn't have done any of this if it wasn't for what you went through. And I'm a really strong believer in everything happens for a reason. You got, 15 months of experience at a law firm. You wouldn't have had that if you didn't go through this.
Correct.
You would still be with people who are terrible influences on you, out partying, doing dumb stuff. I mean, look where you are right now and look where you could have been if we didn't go through that. That's all I want to point out.
I know, like, before like this incident happened, you said that you would go out and you would party and indulge in all these different vices. When this happened, why didn't you double down on those vices? What made you flip the scripts?
That's an outstanding question. And there's a lot of details that go into that answer. The first component, which actually turned out to be really insightful, and I'll use the word cool for me. I came home, so my situation changed overnight. I left school. When I was living in Gainesville, it's accessible to party and do that, as many college kids do. But when I came home, it just wasn't an option anymore for me. It just blocked out of my mind, mainly because of the fear that I was in. Mm-hmm. I was, my back was up against the wall. It was survival mode. So when I kicked it to that survival mode, partying did not even cross my mind, which in retrospect probably highlights how it was never that important to me. And I was just doing it to fit in and be like everybody else. So the fact that I was going to sleep that night in fear of being harassed, which I was being, in fear of jail time, because I was being charged with a crime, which we can get into that a little more detail maybe in another episode. That's a whole episode in and of itself. The legal system and probation and lawyers and what that really looks like from my perspective, just as someone who went through it. When I came home, partying was no longer on my mind. It was survival and it was getting through. But simultaneously, maturity did kick in. And I did connect with a lot of coach. He changed everything about my life, which I think we're going to get into in a little bit on this podcast. But to specifically answer your question, I was in survival mode, and then I realized through maturity and through adversity and through this mentality shift that I was going through about who do I want to be, that substances and partying and staying up till 3 a.m. was simply not who I wanted to be anymore. And actually, it's a great point, because I did have, I guess, the maturity to realize that turning to partying in that portion of my life was a scary, dangerous decision to make because of how vulnerable I was. If I were to go back to partying in the midst of all this, I don't even want to think about what would have happened to me. It would have been devastating.
Mm-hmm. We could keep going along with the story, but I kind of want to go off that topic because you could find that out anywhere. And I want this podcast to be different. So after all this, why did you want to become a life coach? How did that even pop in your mind? I want to get on that topic.
Right. Thank you for bringing that up. First, I think it's important that I describe exactly what a life coach is.
Yes.
When I was going through my situation, I had no idea what a life coach was. A close family friend of mine, who is now a mentor of mine, who happens to be a life coach, referred us to a different life coach. His name is Coach Michael DeSanti. If anyone wants to look him up, he's one of the most inspirational figures in my life. I connected with Coach Michael, we'll call him. And I went through his small week program, and it changed everything about my life. I started putting a new meaning to things. I started putting new purpose to life. And through life coaching, some people think, and this is where I'll talk about my life coaching practice, BenChaseLifeCoaching.com. That's what I'm launching in about a week. I'm going to be certified. I'm a certified life coach, et cetera, et cetera. Some people think that a life coach gives you life advice. You talk to them about your life, and then I'm here to give you advice on what to do. It has nothing to do with that. And that, I feel like, is a common misconception. Or at least my style of life coaching, I'm calling myself, my title is a young adult mentality and lifestyle coach. I want to help young adults strengthen their mentality and lifestyle, just as I strengthen my mentality and lifestyle through life coaching. And what my style of coaching is we have a couple, you're my clients, and we'll have a 60-minute Zoom session once a week. And you'll talk. We'll have your most present needs. And I'm not going to tell you what to do ever. I'm trained and certified to ask you reflective questions that get you to discover what you truly want to connect with your best self. And I'll help you identify what that is. What is the best version of yourself? And I've been trained and certified in these different proven mechanisms to help the client get to that point where they're comfortable enough, or they're vulnerable enough, where they're open enough with me in that type of setting to discover what's truly best for them. And through life coaching, that was one of the things I discovered. Partying is probably not truly best for me, but it takes time to discover things like that. It takes strength. It takes courage. And I know there's a lot of courageous young adults out there who could use someone like me to be in their corner and to hold them accountable, which is another big part of my coaching practice. I've kind of, I guess, invented something, not really invented, but innovated something. I'm calling them accountability assignments. When I connected with my life coach, something that was so important to me was he would send me these text messages. We'd have our 60-minute Zoom, and then 2 of the other days of the week, he would send me a text message assignment where it would be a continuation of our work. So I was connecting with him actually 3 or 4 days out of the 7 days, not just on Zoom day. And I'm kind of taking that practice and bringing it into my life coaching practice. I like the idea of connecting with my clients 3 out of the 7 days of the week and sending them follow-up assignments to keep their minds sharp and to stay in the world of life coaching, of mindfulness, of these daily routines. Because as you guys know, as the athletes you are, in a different context, consistency and dedication are going to show the results.
I just want to speak on consistency because I found you through your videos, so BenChaseMotivation, and you've been posting so consistently over the past couple of months, multiple times a day. And I just want to say that's very impressive. And I feel like a lot of people definitely felt touched by those videos and without a doubt have helped them along the way. And I met you about 5 months ago, and I could just tell that we're going to be friends. I really liked your energy, and I'm glad that I met you. And you truly are very inspirational. And I love what you're doing.
I appreciate that a lot. I really do. So I wanted to kind of touch on the topic of how important it is to talk to someone. I'm not going to say therapy because I don't really like therapy. I think when I went through something, I was struggling with depression when I was in freshman year of high school. Freshman, sophomore year, I was super skinny. I just wasn't happy. And I talked to this guy named John. And he's a therapist, but I kind of looked at him as a life coach instead of therapist because he did exactly what you described. He didn't give me advice, but he directed me on a path that I never even knew I needed to be directed on. He showed me like a way of how I need to solve my own problems and without even giving me the answer. So I admire what you're doing a lot. And I really feel like a lot of people our age don't realize they need to talk to someone until they do it. Like when you went through your incident at UF, you didn't even know how much help you could have had until you talked to someone, right?
That's a great point. And it definitely is true because I was lost. Yeah, I want to talk about like what it meant for me to be lost. When you're lost, you don't know you're lost.
Yes.
When you identify you're lost, you've begun your journey on discovery. You've begun your journey towards purpose, I guess we could say, for that quote. And I didn't know I was lost. I didn't know I was caught. I didn't realize I was caught up in the party scene. I didn't realize I was caught up in the social pressure of fraternity life. And that definition, of course, from my perspective of what it means to be cool. I didn't realize that I wasn't prioritizing family relationships enough. I was an out of priority, unbalanced, out of priority college student. And that's what I have on the top of my website or in my statement. I say at one point in life, like I don't know exactly the wording is, but my struggles, what I didn't realize yet because I was lost, is that my priorities were not in shape and I was unbalanced. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this life coaching is I'll ask you guys these things. Having a lack of prioritization and being unbalanced is a problem that how many college kids struggle with?
Every single one.
And because we're humans, we all still struggle with that. So what I'm trying to bring to this industry is a younger person. I'm going to be 20 years old, but it's, of course, I do have experience in terms of what I went through and what I overcame. Does my explanation of my coaching practice make sense to you guys?
It does.
It does, yeah.
It does for me. And I want to go off this. Do you believe someone can help or give life advice, not advice, like help someone go in the direction if they didn't go through anything themselves?
So you're asking if someone did not overcome their own adversity, would they be able to help someone overcome theirs?
Yes, because I can help talk to people. Like I talk to Mike and give him advice. I give you advice, I like to say. And I do it because I've been through things on my own. And you're starting your whole life coaching practice and you have your website, you're going to start having clients. Do you feel like it's more powerful with yourself that you have this knowledge and you have this story that you've been through? And do you have that story on your website?
Great question.
Yes.
First, I'll address, do I have the story on my website? And it is written in, yes. The answer to your question is yes. I don't have the podcast linked right now, something I'll consider. But right now I do mention my story. Okay. Yes. And then when you ask about, does someone have to go through something in order to be able to give advice? I think that's an excellent point. And I'm the type of guy where if someone asks me a yes or no question, I might answer with blue. Like, I'm not going to just confine to yes or no, because I think that giving my own just genuine opinion. And I actually have a funny story about my uncle. I want to tell this like after I answer your question.
Okay.
My uncle, not who I spoke about earlier, a different uncle, who of course is great. In life, in my opinion, the best way to get through to someone is to channel your own lived experience, no matter who you are. And whether we realize it or not, subconsciously, the conversations we have, the decisions we make, come based on our own lived experiences. So when someone is out there giving advice, no matter who you are, they are using their adversity. They are telling their story and conveying it to someone else. So I think the way I want to answer your question is it possible? It's not possible to do anything as human beings without having some sort of imprint of your story.
Yeah.
That's just how human beings are, in my opinion.
I agree with you. And then you want to talk about the other things?
Yeah. So last night I had a great family dinner. We were talking about food last night, which health is all about. Physical health is something that I admire about Tanner and Michael because they have their transformation. And you guys really, the way that your friend group is composed, and now that I'm friends with some of you guys, it's truly amazing. It's amazing that the fun things that these guys do podcasts, are get deep, are be transparent, are exercise. And there's still young kids figuring out, as all of us are. But I think that the fact that this is one of your guys' activities is something that more friends should do. So now the story with my uncle, we were having a conversation about career and college and all these things.
Yes.
And we were talking and he was making the argument that you should find a major with the highest paying salary on average for graduates. And I was thinking about it. Again, I'm not trying to be, I don't know it should be, am I being the judgmental person? I want to listen to my uncle, he's a great person. And I tried to hear him out. And whatever we kept going, not back and forth, just I was giving my honest and genuine responses. And I kept saying like, well, I don't know if that's going to work for me. I think that in college, it's maybe less about your major, but about developing as a human being so that you could be an asset to a company, even though I want to work for myself. And then he said, this is the plot of the story. He said, well, it's not about what you want. It's about what they want. And I just thought to myself, and my immediate response was, well, what if that's the same thing? What if what I want is what they want? What if it's the same thing? And then what I didn't say, but in reflection on my own, I said, well, what if I change the worlds? Then it might work out. Mm-hmm. So the moral of the story is no one's taught me how to chase my dreams.
So that's a great mindset to have. And definitely it's great to like chase your passion and to really find yourself. But just based on your story, as I was able to jump in, I'd say it's great that you are sharing your story. I think what you said about 1 in 8 billion people really hit me, because I do feel like we're very unique individuals, but we've all gone through similar experiences. And even though, we all might not have gone through the same thing, people can draw parallels through a story and use that to get through a rough time that they're going through in their life and use that as fuel to keep pursuing whatever they want to.
Yes, I agree. And I feel like the best advice to someone is to tell them that they kind of have to experience. I think experience is the best way to learn. Like, you can never tell someone, do this, do that until they've been through it. Like, we have a friend who always goes back to their ex, or used to. You know what it is. I'll say, we could bleep it out.
Yeah.
So we used to always tell him like, this isn't good for you, blah, blah. And at like to a point, you just have to let them do what they do and they have to experience it for themselves. Like, let's say I have another friend who drinks a lot and goes out partying. And I'm like, dude, this is not good for you. Like you're hitting the age where you got to start getting serious with your life. And they don't know it until they kind of go through it themselves. So I'm kind of a strong believer in kind of, if someone comes to you for advice, you tell them what you would do, but you don't tell them what they should do. That's what I'm a big believer in.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it goes hand in hand with what we were talking about and what a life coach is.
Yes.
We don't tell people what to do. Like I was on a trip and I was watching an episode of Henry Danger. I think Henry Danger, it was like randomly on. And Piper, the younger sister, I loved Henry Danger. And this was randomly on. And I happened to be watching this episode. I guess it happened for a reason. And in it, part of the skit was that Piper was a life coach. But the way that director Dan Snyder, who obviously has gotten in a lot of trouble, which is besides the point, the way that he wrote in, I guess it was his writing, the way that he wrote in Piper as a life coach was not what a life coach truly is, or at least not the type of life coach that I'm trying to be. She was like, Jasper was her clients, and it was a funny episode. And he was like, I have this big secret. And then she was like trying to give them advice or whatever the case may be. Another part of the reason why I love life coaching is because it is unique. And I didn't hear about it. And it's not something that everyone hears about every day. And I really, when you say like you're giving advice to your friend, as a friend, makes a lot of sense. The idea of someone out there who might want to be my client or a parent who might see this, we want to prevent problems before they happen. Mm-hmm. Like your friend who's going out partying and drinking, I probably agree with you. That probably isn't the smartest decision. But if I could coach someone like him, he could be my client. I'm not going to tell him to stop partying. We're going to ask him questions. We're going to dig deeper. We're going to get reflective. I'm going to say, what are your long-term goals? What are some of your core values? And are your current decisions aligning with those core values? And then the ball is in his court. But at least he's taking some sort of some sort of measure to try to prevent something bad from happening.
You've had this conversation before. You said, I want to prevent the problem before it happened. And I think on the last podcast, we talked about this. And I said, I kind of go the other route, because what if you prevented your issue, your incident to happen? Like, what if it didn't happen? What if someone said, oh, watch out? Like you would have been a whole different direction in your life right now. So I think it happened for a reason. And I think that sometimes you kind of have to let the person loose, like let them figure it out themselves, unless it's like a really big deal, like, unless they're going to go like kill someone or do something really bad. But it's a tricky answer. I think I want to give my opinion. I think I disagree with a little bit of what you said. The point that I'm trying to make, and really all professionals, like when you sell a product in life, in business, you're solving a problem. That's what any product is. That's how you sell. You solve problems for a lot of people. So problem solving is one of the main ways of business from my mindset. You have to be solving some sort of problem. Mm-hmm. But the question I want to address, which is really cool, and I probably haven't thought about this too hard yet. It's an interesting thing. It's a philosophical thing. What if it never happens? If like life went on normally, I would have kept doing my thing, and who knows where I would have ended up. Maybe I would have gotten caught more and more into the party scene. Maybe my grades would start slipping. We don't know. We can't play that game. But looking back now, if I was approached by my life coach and I still connected with my life coach without this incident happening, I still could have seen myself improving as a person. Yeah.
Self-improvement can happen before a catastrophic failure. And self-improvement is possible no matter what. It really is that first step of vulnerability and that first step of courage. And courage can stem from anything. For me, the courage stemmed from the fear of going to jail. But for someone else, it doesn't have to be that. The courage, in my opinion, can stem from their daily life right now and how they're not happy with themselves. If they just take a moment and think that maybe I could improve. So the idea that everything happens for a reason, yes. But at the same time, problem solving is what makes the world go around.
That was a great answer. Yeah, you got me on that one. You want to say anything?
And well, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to go back to like his story, please, as well. And I'm in blank right now.
Take your time, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I just had it. I draw a blank.
Yeah, take your time. You know that.
Not at the moment. Just had it. How about you? You have anything?
I was gonna start wrapping it up if you don't have.
Okay. Well, I do have some stuff I gotta say. I mean, I wish I met you back then. Without a doubt, I would have been there for you. I'm sorry that you went through that, and you've definitely gone through a lot more than what the average person's gone through, and you came out to the other side. And I think what I wanted to touch back on, it just came to me, is the judgment of other people. I think what you said when people bullied you, I think there's very miserable people. They just wanted to hop on the hate train, and they just want to disguise their own insecurities and just hone in on you and trying to ruin your life. But you obviously didn't let that happen, and you became so stronger because of it. And I was watching a podcast. It was John Bernthal and Shia LaBeouf. And he said that when you're friends with someone and a huge mistake happens to them, you don't turn your back on them or abandon them. You just hold them accountable and make sure they don't make that same mistake again, and try to just make them a better person, but not really change them, but just be there for them, honestly. And that's what I would have done for you if I knew you back then.
That's a very insightful point, and I appreciate that. And actually, I want to talk about something that probably is unexpected, but it's something that I learned in life coaching in my course when I was certified to become a life coach. When Michael forgot his question, I was mindful of it. It's something that we call the power of the pause. And you even did it naturally just then, and then you eventually jumped in.
Right.
But what the power of the pause is, when we work with clients, there's going to be times when they don't know what to say. But the power of the pause, sometimes you have that immediate instinct to jump in and like lead them. But what we were kind of doing with Michael is we gave him that space to sit in his thoughts for a sec. And it actually did come back to you. Yeah. You want to talk about judgment. And that's just one of the things, one of the hundreds of things that I learned through life coaching. An example, something like the power of the pause. That's not just for the client. That's anything. Like if you're having a business deal, a negotiation, by you not interrupting somebody in their thought where you could see it in their eyes, that probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, would make you feel respected, would make you feel heard, would make it feel like it's not just about us. We gave you the power of the pause that you deserved. Of course. Yeah. And you led to an insightful point, which made the world a better place.
You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you killed that on that one, man. But the silence really does speak louder than words can ever come out. How do you say a silence speaks louder than words? Is that it?
Yeah, I think even if it's not, I think it's good. Yeah. Silence can absolutely speak louder than words in a world where everyone wants to give their opinion on Twitter, where everyone wants to, as you said, jump on the hate train. But we know why, because it's easier. What's easier to do? To comment on my post, you should kill yourself just to get your friend to laugh? Or is it easier for that cyber bullier to look in the mirror and say, I'm not happy in my own life? What's easier? And they know what's easier. Of course. Everyone, but guess what? Being successful is hard. And we're making good. It's not easy for us to post on our stories and put ourselves out there. It's not easy for me to go from a mainstream Boca Jewish kid who is supposed to follow a very specific path. And if you comment something on someone's post, you get bullied for it that you're not supposed to comment. So, and again, I'm not here to say how unfair it is for me. I hope that's clear. I'm here to express my journey so people out there can be inspired.
Right. Yeah. Well, I also wanted to say, like, another reason why people might not be in your corner is because they don't want the spotlight to be on them, or like for them to be associated with you with like a controversy. But that's what true friends are for. And if the spotlight gets shown on me, like if it shines on me, then so be it. Because I'm in your corner and I'm gonna fight with you, man, no matter what. And I'll speak highly about your character if that would happen.
I appreciate that. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. I'm in your corner too, Beth. But before we finish up, I always ask all the guests this question: what's your biggest piece of advice to someone who went through an incident? Like, let's say this. You posted a recent video on Maddie Kowalski, and her she was brave to go out and say her story. She got millions of views talking about it, and you did a video on it. You got many views as well. I don't think you gave your opinion, but you kind of just talked about her bravery and what you kind of thought of this situation a little bit. But what would you give advice to someone kind of going through a tough situation like she did, like you did, like anybody in the world did in that point in their life? Like, what would you say?
Power of the pause. Yeah. I would give the one quote from life coaching that allowed me to reframe my life. That not only allowed me to reframe my mindset, but allowed me to reframe my life. And I've already said it on this podcast. This is either your redemption story or your contamination story. And you can apply that to anything in life. You are either, my life coach explained to me and I learned myself, you are either going to play the victim for the rest of your life. I mean, if we want to talk about my situation, how many opportunities did I have to play the victim and to say how horrible and miserable this situation is surreal? Yeah. I had all the excuses in the world. I could write a book on all those excuses. Not a bad idea. But I asked myself, don't I want to be successful? So I have to choose redemption. And I said in the video, it seems like Maddie is choosing redemption. Anyone's going through adversity. You can either complain about how unfair your life is, or you can begin your redemption tour. And the choice is yours, which is the beautiful part.
Yes. And I kind of want to go off that and say one last thing before we kind of wrap it up. My dad told me this one time. It's kind of like maybe like a tough quote or something, but feeling bad for yourself or feeling bad for someone doesn't help anyone. I mean, you kind of have to take action, do something yourself. Or let's say I went through the situation you went through. People are making shirts, we're getting cyberbullied. Oh, I feel bad for myself. Oh, I'm just going to go hide away, be all depressed. What the heck does that do? Or let's say it happened to you and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, Ben. I feel bad for you. How does that help you? That's something really huge that I got taught, and it's just stuck with me. Like, throughout my whole life. Like, if I see a homeless person, I feel bad for them. But how does that help them? Like, it's either I'm going to go up to them, talk to them, or it's just action. Action speaks louder than that.
That's an amazing life lesson. And believe it or not, something else I learned in life coaching. Shocker. That you just explained the difference between empathy and sympathy.
Yes.
And that's what we were taught in life coaching. As life coaches, we are trained actually to not be sympathetic. We are trained to be empathetic for our clients. Because like when Michael, like you said, the difference between I'm so sorry and I'm so sorry for what you went through, you showed bravery. There's a difference in that delivery.
Yeah.
The I'm so sorry, like you just did, brings people more down. But by relating to them and being empathetic, not sympathetic, you're putting yourself in their shoes and your eyes are forward. Your dominoes are starting to fall forward in the direction of success. They're not falling backwards in the direction of misery. Because we have choices in life. As I said, the beautiful part about life is that success is a choice. Just, you got to make that choice for like a lifetime. And that can be daunting and scary at times. But I choose every day to defeat said man, to post my 3 videos, to work on my businesses, to connect with good people. You got to make that choice every single day. And then you'll be successful. We're already successes in a way.
Yes. What's your biggest take on this episode, Mike?
I have a couple of different takes, but I would just say it like judgment. I know this is kind of biblical, but we shouldn't judge others because we are imperfect ourselves. And I feel like it's very easy to jump to conclusions. I know I've done it. You told me I've jumped to conclusions. And you like tell this story and I kind of like, everyone does it. Yeah. And I try to like put the pieces together before it's over. But I would say don't judge others. But before you even give them your opinion, hear both sides of the story before you try to give your 2 cents about it. And if you're going through something difficult and people are leaving from your life and just leaving your corner, don't chase them away because they weren't your real friends to begin with. And yeah, man, I applaud you for your consistency, and I want to be just as consistent as you. And I wish you all the success in the future. I know you'll be successful in the future.
Absolutely. Likewise. Thank you. I'd say my biggest takeaway from this episode is I told Mike before this episode, I said, here's what I want to stick with. I don't really want to talk about a story. Everybody knows a story. I want to address the deeper part of it and say that what you took away from it, how you didn't let one situation define your whole life, how you moved forward, you grew as a person, your BenChaseMotivation now. Before you were just Ben Cohen. But the truth is, I mean, look at you now. You're consistent. How many videos you posted? 700?
I think 7 after today, it'll be around 710, 711.
710, 7. That's insane. And you're gaining a lot of following. And just like kind of, I like to say that you learn something from kicking ass in Tanner Stone. I think a lot of people look at your channel and take something away as well. And just to know that you have an impact on someone's life now, just think about that, man. Like, people look at your channel and are going through situations that you never even know. That could be way worse than yours or Matty Kowalski's or whatever I went through or he went through. And you're just helping someone out without even knowing. So that's what I applaud you for. And that's what I just admire you for, your consistency and how you have an impact on someone. So yes, thank you for coming on this episode. But
Yeah, I was just say, I usually have like a couple last thoughts, but I would say you definitely deserve all the success that's coming to you. I know for a lot of people in your similar situation, they wouldn't have made it out, or maybe they're not here today because they went through something terrible like that. And then I just want to speak on mistakes. I don't think you should try to be perfect people. I was talking to my godfather about this. He said, like, well, this was like at night. He said, I probably already made 6 mistakes or even more throughout the day. I was just like, yeah, I definitely made that or even more mistakes as well. And I think, don't try to be perfect, but just try to be a little bit better each and every day. That's my thought.
one step at a time.
Exactly.
What do you think, Ben?
By you saying that was just amazing. It brought back a really deep, dark memory from my story, which I do want to share. There was one of the nights where I went live on Instagram, was doing my thing, and there was a really bad cyberbullying. There were like 3 or 4 accounts in there just going crazy, like every second making it over joke about the hamster. And of course, my mother was watching this, and I got home to my apartment and my mom was crying because of how just disgusting the things that were being said. She was crying, and it was a really tough thing for me. But I remember in that moment, I was strong and I was unbothered, which is another huge thing in life. And I said, Mom, this is part of my story. There are people who are going to harass me, probably forever, because of this story. It's going to happen. But I'm not going to let them win. I'm going to keep on posting.
Yes.
And there's nothing it's like probably a dozen people who know about it right now and troll me, maybe less, probably less. Those dozen people, I want to be a point in time when I team up with Mr. Beast and we fly them out in a video to come apologize to me in front of the world and saying, I'm sorry for cyberbullying you, BenChaseMotivation. And they'll learn from their mistakes. I don't want to have to press criminal charges against these people. I want them to grow and learn without having to go through the shit that I went through from a criminal perspective, because they are committed crimes. But how do we positively change the world? And it starts by being members and by being strong.
Absolutely. That's a very mature thing to say.
It's been a pleasure to be on here with you guys. I'll come on anytime. I really love it here.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You took a lot away from this.
Yes. And I know we keep adding shit, but I want to add one last thing is this is something that I always say. We met at Starbucks yesterday and I talked about it. You told me you posted a video, went viral. What did I ask you? I said, what did you learn from it? What did you take away from this video that you're going to apply to the other videos? And it's kind of like every situation in your life. What did you learn from it? What are you going to take away from it? And I think that those 2 questions kind of go a long way with anything. Like, let's say this podcast does terror. What did I learn? What am I going to take away from it? Like every single thing in life. So that's what I want to leave off with, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks for
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow BenChaseMotivation.
Check him out.
Motivational Mike too.
He's the real deal.
Peace.